Hello, this is the Tolkien Curmudgeon. Today, I think I'll take a break from my usual groaning and moaning and complaining, curmudgeoning about the Rings of Power and talk about something good. That is stuff that I have in my Tolkien collection. Today, I just want to talk about some of the more unusual or hard to find or different kind of things that I have. Here's the first one. A letter. This is a photograph of a letter from Tolkien written to the eldest of my first cousins. It's from 1955. My cousin had been eagerly awaiting the publication of the third volume of The Lord of the Rings, and she wrote a letter, kind of a fan letter, I guess, to Tolkien, and he answered it. And now this letter has become part of the Tolkien Guide's letter guide. Here it is. Dear Miss Nicholson, thank you very much for your letter of 19 August. I'm sorry that my thanks have been delayed so long, but I was away in Gondor as a change from the North Kingdom this summer. There now is a lot to do, since I hope that Volume 3 will continue to please you. It will appear in England on 20 October, in USA in November, I hope. Yours sincerely, J.R.R. Tolkien. So Tolkien has been something liked in my family for a very, very long time. In fact, here are the copies that belong to my mother of The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers. Those are the first edition, not the first printing, as we say in English, in American English, we don't, the first edition doesn't mean first printing, but this is the first edition. And it's signed by my mother. I don't care that that distracts from the value for other people. This is mine. I inherited it. I don't have The Return of the King. I don't know where that is. I guess other first printings I have, which might be of interest, are the Silmarillion. My mother pre-ordered it before it came out. We had 3 copies. It is a very, very first printing of the American edition. How do I know? Well, because we waited for it. I sat on my living room couch and read it. And it even says here that books by J.R.R. Tolkien include Father Giles of Ham. Misprint. That was corrected later. By the way, I don't read this copy for my own reading pleasure. I have this one. Now, what's special about this is that I have taken the time and trouble to annotate many sections with notes, especially from different parts of the History of Middle-earth series. For example, in the chapter on Maeglin, I have heavily annotated some sections with the little sections of text that were omitted by Christopher Tolkien. So what else do I have that's slightly unusual? Well, there's this. This is called A Hobbit's Travels, being the hitherto unpublished travel sketches of Sam Gamgee, with space for notes. Facsimile edition. You don't see this book around, do you? And it's supposed to be Sam's sketches as they traveled along. And it has space for you to write. The paper's quite nice, almost parchment-like. I never did write in this. So it's in perfect condition. Now, my own reading copy that I had of The Lord of the Rings was this. This was the first one that I read. It was given to me as a Christmas present from my mother. And I think it was the first, perhaps anyway, the first place that these heraldic devices were published. I'd never seen them before. And I love this edition because it had on the covers of the paperbacks the drawings by Tolkien, and on the back a wonderful portrait of the man. And later I bought another slightly different version of this edition. I just think it's the best of all paperbacks of The Lord of the Rings. What else do I have? Well, of course, there's the usual large edition of Farmer Giles of Ham. Did I say Farmer Giles of Ham? I mean Letters from Father, Christmas, see where Father. But what I really like is having this little tiny small cute version. Wow. I don't know where you can find this anymore. I'm sure you can get it online, and it has illustrations. And then a little tiny version with illustrations of poems from The Hobbit. Yes, oh, I love these two little cute books. Speaking of cute little books, there's Bilbo's Last Song, illustrated by Pauline Baynes. Pauline Baynes very famously illustrated the Chronicles of Narnia, but she also illustrated Farmer Giles of Ham and Smith of Wootton Major, and of course, The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. This is my first printing of the first American edition, and I do love it. Oh, yes, I do. I love Pauline Baynes. Of course, back in the day when the very first Tolkien calendar was published, my brother had the first one. It was 1973, and the illustrations were by J.R.R. Tolkien and also by Pauline Baynes. The second year was 74. I had that one. It was exactly the same, but it had a lavender cover. I've long since lost that. But as far as Tolkien calendars are concerned, I do have some unusual ones still in my possession. Here's the Hobbit Desk Calendar 1978. And it wasn't the first time these illustrations were published, of course, but it is a nice little thing to have around. And actually, I think the colorized version of some of the drawings may have been in the large-scale Hobbit calendar. And some of those were also first published in the, some of the colorized versions of things were also first published in the Silmarillion calendar of 1978, which I didn't have, but I had the desk version from the next year. And that also had a lot of the heraldic devices, but it also had things like Taniquetil back there. Let me see. Oh, yes. It's not that unusual, but I do highly prize having my hardcover of The Road Goes Ever On Song Cycle, which was recently mischaracterized by Corrigan Holsom, the Tolkien professional, as merely a book of sheet music. That's not, it has sheet music, yes, but what's really important about this book is notes and translations by J.R.R. Tolkien, including the beautiful calligraphy, this one of Namadie. But the notes and translations of Namadie are fantastic and tell us a lot about Galadriel's life and the background for her farewell. Namadie, right, which begins Ai laurie lantar lasi surinen yeni unotime ve ramar aldaron, and so on. Some of the other things that I am very happy to have are first printing of the War of the Jewels, first printing of Unfinished Tales, first American printing. And what have I got here? Well, I'm a little bit of a maniac, so why wouldn't I? Yes, back in the day, as I was feverishly reading the history of Middle-earth, I would do things like type out the entire Ainulindale in Celtic font, which resembles insular half-uncial writing from the Middle Ages, which is also the style of writing that I believe Tolkien based the Tengwar on. And I included alternative readings of some parts of the text, things that were left out of the Silmarillion, but were included, at least in footnotes, in the history of Middle-earth. I mean, I was such a fanatic that I did the same thing with all of the alliterative lay of Turin. And I typed the whole thing out, and I included some sort of, I thought, better parts of some sections. For example, the beautiful poem which talks about Syrian, the river, and making its way down to the sea. And I also, this was long before the Children of Hurin book came out, I made my own version, which was called The Curse of Morgoth. I didn't think that Christopher was ever going to get around to doing it. I never intended to publish this or anything. It was mostly for my own amusement and for the amusement of my family. I edited together parts from the Silmarillion. Oh, I did print out some illustrations by Naismith and so on. I edited together parts from the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, some from the War of the Jewels notes, and my own prosification of the middle section of the Turin poem. Why did I want that in there? Because it's the only real description of the journey to Nargothrond. and the entrance into Nargothrond. It's an amazing thing, and it was quite difficult to try to put a prosification in a style that would more or less meet up with the rest of it. So those are a few of the things I have. Oh yes, I forgot. There's a couple of movie-related things I want to show you. So when the movies were first coming out, they published these interesting little sort of diary books that you could get, which were, I didn't write in this one, but I thought it was such a beautiful book. I had to buy it, and I've had this around for a very long time. But I did write in this one. It had such nice end papers with the ring inscription Tengwar that I decided I had to fill it up with my own Tengwar inscriptions and telling my dreams. So that's my dream journal. Don't look, it's private. In those days, I could write Tengwar English almost as fast as I can write regular English. And how did I learn to do that? Well, in this copy of the Lay of Beleriand, well, in most copies, I guess, you can find a picture of Tolkien's manuscript of the Lay of Luthien, in which he wrote in Tengwar. Now, the mode that you can see in that, if you take the time to decipher it, is, I think, the best for writing in English. It uses a full letters for vowels, and you can just write it. It can almost become like handwriting. Anyway, that's some of the things I have from Tolkien. Oh, I saved the best for last. What is it? This is the most unusual thing I have. A small little exhibition catalog of the manuscripts at Marquette University. This is from September 12th to 23rd, 1983, Marquette University Special Collections. They had some of these drawings and manuscripts by Tolkien put on display, and then Taum Santoski put this together, and he communicated with my mother's sister, who actually my mother had two sisters. So her older sister was the mother of my cousin who wrote to Tolkien, and her twin sister, who became a daughter of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, became a philosophy professor. She was at Marquette University when the manuscripts arrived there, and she helped organize and go through them. And then she communicated with Taum Santoski about the initial processing, and he wrote this. This is a letter from Taum Santoski to my aunt, and he says I am sending you a copy of the manuscript display catalog from last year's Tolkien conference as a thank you for your information about the initial processing of the Tolkien papers. And my aunt put together this book of many very old reviews of Tolkien literature. And she hand-typed them, because I guess in those days, they didn't have copy machines. And in fact, this is a carbon copy of her typed original. But she put this together. And in the same volume where she gave this to me, there's some really interesting early reviews of Tolkien's writings in here, and some very good ones. And she included this clip from the San Francisco Examiner that came out after Tolkien died. This was September 22nd, 1973. It's a very favorable article about Tolkien, and I'm sure very hard to find this. So I guess that about does it for me, what I'd like to share with you today. And happy reading. See you. Bye-bye.